Hey Dead Nerds, my name is Avin and welcome to my first installment of what I'm going to be calling Discussing the Dead. So the goal here is to post on Mondays. Today is Tuesday, but I was really busy yesterday. But the goal here is to post on Mondays about the previous night's episode. So that's going to include my thoughts on the episode, the feels that I experienced, and then predictions for the following week. And I'm going to try to do this where I don't see any spoilerage or sneak peeks or previews for the following episode. And I'm going to do this by trying to stay off of Tumblr pages that I know may spoil that kind of stuff. I won't be clicking on any articles online. I won't be watching any of the YouTube videos that AMC puts out called Sneak Peek of or whatever. And I'm also not going to be watching the Next Time on Walking Dead that they do at the end of each episode because I just want to try to go into every episode this season not knowing what to expect. That being said, I have read all the comic books up until this point, so I do have some good reasoning skills, some thoughts on what is to be expected, but so far they have changed quite a bit of things, so we will see kind of how they end up playing things out, and I should probably also add in here that this will be spoilery, potentially. Obviously, not even potentially, this will be spoilery. If you haven't watched the current season, I'm doing this for season 7. If you haven't watched season 7, this will spoil the crap out of it for you because we're going to be discussing the previous night's episode, okay? Also, I will probably be discussing the comic books a little bit, so if you haven't read those and you want to, do know that they do differ from the TV show significantly, so there will probably be spoilers about that, and I don't know if I'll be able to catch myself and say this happens in the comic book, so turn off now, kind of thing. But just, I figure by this point, if you're at season 7 and you haven't read the comic books yet, you probably won't be reading the comic books, so I feel like we're probably safe there. So let's get into it. Last night's episode was season 7, episode 1, and it was called The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. So as we all know, season 6 left us with a cliffhanger of not knowing exactly who Negan was bashing their brains in with Lucille. They left us with that horrible cliffhanger and gave us an entire off-season to debate it and discuss it and worry about it. And as far as that went, I was knowing it should be Glenn, because Glenn did die in the comic books by Negan in that manner. So I was expecting it to be Glenn, but I was really hoping it wouldn't be. And I kind of thought, my reasoning for that was that from a viewer standpoint, Glenn and Maggie are like a power couple, so I really thought they would change it so that they didn't kill Maggie's husband and the father of her child. I really thought they would spare Glenn that, but then also going into it, I knew that Abraham was dead by this point. Sasha technically sort of doesn't exist, I think, in the books. Sasha was Tyrese's daughter, who had this weird suicide pact thing with a boy, and that was kind of weird. But I knew who was supposed to be at that meeting with Negan and who wasn't. So I was like, they could use this as the point to write off Abraham because he died previously anyway. So I can't remember if he died after. I think he died when the walls fell at Alexandria. It's been a lot. That was many, many issues ago. But they killed Abraham, and I'll admit there was sort of a sigh of relief that it wasn't Glenn, because in the comic books, Glenn was my absolute favorite character. And I'll be honest, when I read issue 100, when he met the business end of Lucille, I sobbed like a child. My husband was taking a nap, and he had already read them, and I woke him up out of a dead sleep and kind of yelled and screamed at him for not warning me it was coming. And then I called my friend who works at the comic shop, and I yelled at him a little bit too, because he also didn't warn me going into it. So yeah, I was kind of relieved it was Abraham, but then I was also really concerned because when Glenn acted out, Negan said, "The first one's free. This is an emotional time," and I'll admit that made me giggle. The whole, it's an emotional time. Like, Negan is, at his core, a very bad dude, but he has some of the best lines. He's just, I don't know. He's an entertaining sociopath, or maybe it's psychopath. He's entertaining to watch, even though he's a very horrible person. So, I did giggle out loud there. But But then they killed Abraham, and I was like, oh, geez, but hopefully that should be the end of it. And then when Daryl acted out, I was like, oh crap, because only the first one is free, and are they gonna kill Daryl? Because Daryl does not exist in the comic books. So pretty much he can die at any time. And I know there's this whole movement of if Daryl dies, we riot. Don't do that, people, okay? Because though I love Robert Kirkman and he's given us such amazing, rich, disgusting things to enjoy, like The Walking Dead, I feel that ultimately, deep down, our pain fuels his life force, okay? So if we keep pushing this Daryl can't die thing, he could potentially be like, hey, let's kill him just to piss everybody off. It could happen. Like, that is a worry that I do have. So anyway, okay, so Daryl acted out, and I was like, oh crap, only the first one was free, so someone else is going to be meeting the business end of Lucille. And I was like, it could be Sasha. It could be Daryl because he doesn't exist. It could be anybody. Really, anyone is not safe except for Rick and Carl, I feel like, ultimately. And then he killed Glenn, and it was just amazing. Like, as far as it matched the comic book so perfectly, and it gave me such feels inside. I didn't cry because though I was taken aback that it happened, I was a bit startled. I did feel like, personally, they still needed to take him out in that way because it was just such a shock to the senses in the comic book when it happened that I felt that they needed to keep it in there, and they did. So it was still very, very upsetting, do not get me wrong. But, oh, holy crap, that was horrible. But it mirrored, like, perfectly, like, when he pulls his head up and his eyes, like, bulging out of his socket, and he's like, Maggie. That is the point in the comic book when I lost my shit and sobbed like a baby. I feel like it was a bit worse in the comic book because there was this huge dent where Lucille had just concaved his skull, and it was horrifying. It was horrifying. But they did a great job. They did a great job. And real quick on that, let's talk about how perfect of a casting it was for Jeffrey Dean Morgan to play Negan. Like, wow. Wow. I'd heard rumors that it was up between Garrett Dillahunt and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I was like, okay, well, I would love it for it to be Jeffrey Dean Morgan, but also I was like, if he gets the part of Negan, he will be one of my favorite actors playing one of the villains I hate the most. Ultimately, he's my favorite villain, but I hate him so much because he kills Glenn. So when one of my favorite actors got cast as Negan, I was like, holy crap, one of my favorite actors is killing my favorite character, and this is going to be very feelsy for me. And it was very feelsy. But real quick on that as well, how much guilt is Daryl feeling right now? Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Him attacking Negan is what cost Daryl his life. So not only how much guilt is he feeling, how pissed off is Maggie gonna be when she has time to finish processing this, that had everyone just kept their cool, like Negan said, even though it was an emotional time, had Daryl not swung out, Glenn would probably still be alive. So there's gonna be some stuff there. And furthermore into that, Negan has declared that Daryl is his and has taken him with him. What is that gonna be about? Is he putting Daryl into some kind of entertaining fighting pit thing? Kind of like the governor did with Merle and Daryl and the zombies? It's going to be like that? Are they just going to torture him? Is he going to try to make him a savior? Like, what are we doing with Daryl? It's very upsetting. I don't like not knowing, but I also am not going to watch any previews because I don't want to know. I want to be shocked with every episode this season. So, we'll see. We'll see. And so let's get on to the predictions for next week, because I pretty much covered, I think, everything I wanted to here. Just, again, emphasizing how perfect Jeffrey Dean Morgan is. Holy crap. So perfect is Negan. So predictions for next week. I feel like we're not going to see what I'm going to call the main group. We're not going to see the main group next week. I think next week's episode is going to be wholly just about Morgan and Carol meeting the people at, I think it's called the Kingdom, right? with Ezekiel. So I imagine we'll meet Ezekiel and his big pretty tiger baby. So that's going to be exciting. Like I said, I have read the comic book, so I do know vaguely where we're going from here. So we'll see where we do go from here. It's been emotional. It's been an emotional ride for us. 7 years, guys. 7 years of just turmoil. But also, real quick, I do think I know why they didn't kill Daryl, and I think it's because he is a fan favorite, and I feel like the network maybe won't allow the writers to kill Daryl because I really feel like they'd lose a great number of viewers if they killed Daryl, because I do feel that though the comic book largely follows Rick, Daryl has sort of become the face of The Walking Dead. So Daryl Dixon is almost everybody's favorite. So I can see the network being like, you can't kill him because then we will lose so many viewers. People will be so mad. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that just is the case and remains to be the case because Daryl, guys. Just sweet baby Daryl. But also, when I was reading the comic book, I was like, there's no way they'll ever kill Glenn because he's so adorable, and they killed Glenn. So anyway, this got rambly. This was the first episode. I was just kind of testing the water, seeing, we'll probably be more succinct in later installments. I said episode. We'll probably be more succinct about what we're going to talk about in the next installments, but I think that pretty much sums it all up. I have a little list here of notes that I made when I was like watching the show, so I could like go back to it and be like, yeah, I wanted to mention that. So anyway, that's where it's at. So yeah, we'll see you next time, nerds.